They called it a joke, a toy plane made of wood and glue. The mighty Luftwaffe laughed, confident that no wooden aircraft could ever challenge their steel machines. But they were wrong, dead wrong, because that fragile-looking plane, the de Havilland Mosquito, would soon hum through the skies faster than any fighter Germany could build. And before the war was over, the Nazis would learn that the wooden wonder wasn't a myth. It was a nightmare. In 1938, while Europe edged toward chaos, the British Air Ministry was obsessed with heavy bombers, big armored beasts with multiple gun turrets and crews of 7 or more. Strength, they believed, meant metal and firepower. Then came Geoffrey de Havilland, a visionary designer with an impossible idea. He proposed an aircraft built almost entirely from wood. No heavy armor, no defensive guns, just speed, altitude, and precision. It was the kind of idea that got people laughed out of meetings. The Air Ministry dismissed it instantly. Wooden planes? One officer scoffed. You might as well send up a kite. But de Havilland didn't back down. He believed in simplicity. Fewer guns meant less weight meant more speed. He and his engineers worked in secrecy, crafting a plane made of plywood and balsa, glued together with ingenuity rather than steel bolts. When the first Mosquito prototype took flight in 1940, it stunned everyone who saw it. The engines roared like thunder, and the wooden frame cut through the sky with unnatural grace. It climbed higher, flew faster, and maneuvered sharper than anyone had imagined possible. And while the Luftwaffe unleashed wave after wave of bombers over London, this strange new machine was waiting. Quiet, untested, underestimated. What no one yet realized was that this wooden plane was about to redefine air warfare itself. Rehook. The Germans would soon spot something on their radar. Something too fast to be a bomber, too quiet to be a fighter, and too dangerous to ignore. When the Mosquito finally took to the skies for its first combat missions, even the British High Command didn't expect what came next. The year was 1941. The Luftwaffe dominated Europe's airspace. Allied bombers, slow, lumbering, and predictable, were being shredded by German fighters and anti-aircraft fire. The skies over France were a death sentence. But then something new appeared on the German radar screens, something they couldn't identify. It was too fast, too small, too high. It crossed the French coast, hit its target in broad daylight, and vanished before the Luftwaffe could even scramble. Within minutes, radio chatter erupted across German air bases. What was that? That ghost was the Mosquito, the plane everyone had laughed at. Its plywood frame made it light enough to climb higher and move faster than anything the Germans had in the air. When radar operators tried to track it, it was already gone. In one of its earliest missions, a squadron of Mosquitoes struck the Gestapo headquarters in Oslo. A daring daylight raid that seemed suicidal on paper. Yet the wooden bombers sliced through enemy airspace, dropped their bombs with precision, and returned home without a single loss. The propaganda value was enormous. Newspapers called it the raid that humiliated the Reich. The Germans couldn't believe it. Goering himself, furious and humiliated, reportedly shouted, "When I see a Mosquito, I turn green with envy." He knew, and for the first time, that Britain had built something Germany couldn't match. But this was just the beginning. The Mosquito wasn't just a bomber. It could do everything: reconnaissance, night fighting, pathfinding for larger bombers. It became the Swiss Army knife of the air. Quiet, fast, and precise. And as its missions grew bolder, the Germans' frustration grew darker. Every time they thought they could catch it, the Mosquito proved it could fly faster, lower, and smarter. By 1943, the Mosquito had become more than just an aircraft. It was a legend whispered among Allied air crews and cursed by German pilots. It wasn't made of steel or armor. It didn't rely on heavy guns. It relied on speed, precision, and the courage of the two men inside, a pilot and a navigator, who trusted that their wooden wings would carry them home. German radar operators began calling it Der Holzgeist, the wooden ghost. It appeared on screens for seconds, then vanished. Luftwaffe interceptors scrambled to catch it, but the Mosquito could cruise at over 400 miles per hour, higher and faster than most German fighters. The Messerschmitt Bf 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s, once the terror of the skies, could barely keep up. One mission in early 1943 sealed its reputation. A group of Mosquitoes was sent deep into Germany to bomb the Berlin broadcasting station, while Hermann Göring himself was delivering a live radio speech. As he ranted about the invincibility of the Luftwaffe, the sirens wailed, the Mosquitoes were overhead. The bombs fell, cutting the broadcast mid-sentence. Göring survived, but his pride didn't. He later raged, "The British, with their wooden planes, make fools of us." And the humiliation didn't stop there. Mosquitoes raided Gestapo prisons, smashing through walls to free captured resistance fighters. They carried cameras instead of bombs, flying dangerous photo reconnaissance missions over Berlin, Cologne, and even the fjords of Norway, capturing images that guided Allied bombing campaigns. The Germans threw everything they had at it: flak, fighters, night patrols, but nothing worked. The Mosquito could skim the treetops to avoid radar, climb to the stratosphere to escape pursuit, and hit its targets with pinpoint accuracy. Even when the Nazis built the jet-powered Me-262, the Mosquito still managed to survive. Why? Because by the time the Me-262s were airborne, the Mosquitoes were already gone. The wooden wonder wasn't supposed to exist, and yet it was rewriting the rules of war. As the war raged on, the Mosquito didn't just survive, it evolved. Newer versions carried radar to hunt German night bombers, cameras for mapping the front lines, and rockets to destroy locomotives and submarines. It became a weapon of versatility, a silent messenger of Allied dominance in the skies. Its wooden body, once mocked, turned out to be its greatest advantage. It was invisible to most radar frequencies of the time and easier to repair. When metal was scarce, Britain turned to its carpenters and furniture makers. Workshop craftsmen, ordinary men and women, assembled wings and fuselages in small towns across England and Canada. The war effort wasn't just fought in the air, it was fought in sawdust-covered garages and barns. Every Mosquito carried a story. Stories of pilots who flew without armor or guns, relying only on speed and nerve. Stories of missions where crews returned home with holes in the fuselage, splinters in their hands, and smiles on their faces, because they made it back. The aircraft wasn't a fortress. It was a promise that bravery and ingenuity could overcome brute force. By the time the war ended, more than 7,700 Mosquitoes had flown over Europe, North Africa, and Asia. It became the only plane that both bomber and fighter commands demanded more of. Even the Americans were impressed. General Eisenhower himself called it one of the most outstanding aircraft of the war. And when Germany finally fell, captured Luftwaffe officers were asked which Allied aircraft they feared the most. Some said the Spitfire, others the Mustang, but many simply shook their heads and said, the Mosquito, a wooden bomber that laughed in the face of metal, that turned mockery into terror and became one of the greatest legends of aviation history. If the story of the Mosquito amazed you, imagine how many other forgotten war machines changed history. Subscribe to World War Ashes and join us as we uncover the untold stories, the daring inventions, and the human courage behind the battles that shaped our world. Like this video, share it with a friend who loves history, and let's keep these legends alive, one story at a time.